¿Dónde me pongo, chat, para no molestar? ¿Aquí? ¿Aquí estoy bien? El chat. ¿Yo aquí? O no, Warlords of Draenor, donde empezó a irse toda la mierda. Bueno, vamos a ver. Mi bingo es... raza jugable, clase jugable o spec jugable, expansión de dragones, Magni troleando... Se llama Dragonflight o similares, sale Alex Traza en la portada. Memes de Champions. Borom, gracias por el premio, bienvenido. Gracias por la ayuda en el extremo. Cámara en el centro, te falta calle, sí. Talarán otra vez, esa también es buena. Sistema de mierda de poder pescado, sí, de poder prestado. Sistema copiando a los Covenants, pero con otro nombre. Se ha filtrado por ahí algo de los talentos raros también. ¡Hostias! Una buena expansión. Qué lejos se ve, ¿eh? El arte de Turalio. Sí, el recuerdo de los talentos se había filtrado, pero que a saber si es verdad la imagen. Pero que bueno, que no se molestan mucho en esconder las cosas ya, ¿eh? ¿Anunciaban otra cosa aparte de la expansión? No me acuerdo si anunciaban también el juego de móvil hoy. No me acuerdo, chat, ¿os acordáis? ¿Qué pasa, Atur? Cadogo quiere molestar, lo suyo. El mes que viene lo del móvil. Ah, perdón. El diario inmortal. Ya toca, Legión sacaron clase nueva. Desde Legión no tenemos clase. Ya tocaría clase o spec como un mínimo. Y antes del antes del DH fue Pandaria, ¿no? Ya tocaría clase mínimo, o spec. BFA, qué coñazos, Estoy de acuerdo. Creo que BFA no se ha quedado como la peor expansión. Creo que ha sido Shadowlands, ¡Ay, no! Los vulperas de mierda, estos feos. Qué putísimo asco. Lo subo un poco. Creo que en el ranking de expansiones bullshit, creo que estaría Shadowlands. Y BFA y Warlords of Draenor estaría ahí, Draenor estuvo guay, pero no había contenido. Que es lo mismo que Shadowlands, básicamente. BFA al menos tuvo un parche bueno. Draenor tuvo un content cut guapísimo y un final de mierda. Me voy a mudar las alertas, ¿vale? Mientras el eventillo. El Kung Fu Panda igual. Pandaria estuvo guay. A ver. Se me hizo un poco lenta. Pero hubo contenido. Y todo lo que metieron de lore fue genuino, totalmente nuevo. Así que no sé. No me pareció mala expansión Pandaria. Solo que vino de una mala expansión. Bueno, una expansión no tan buena como la Brad. Y no fue ese pelotazo que la peña se esperaba. Esto sí que fue una expansión de mierda. Me cago en Dios, qué putísima basura de expansión, Uf, horripilante. Poco contenido, contenido aburrido. Pocas raids memorables. Diría que Castelnacia fue la raid más interesante. Una trama muy aburrida. Muchísimo potencial desaprovechado en esta expansión, El Afterlife. Muy desaprovechado. El lore es un truño. A ver, sí. Lleva ya unas cuantas expansiones siendo un truño. Sepulcro no está mal, pero creo que para mi gusto Castelnacia me gustó más. ¿Le subo un poco? Lo subo entero. Bueno, vamos a ver. Dame mi racha de nostalgia, Blizzard. Sácame a Ardas otra vez, va. Esto es de Legión, Momentito. Subtítulos se pueden poner aquí. Ah, mira, sí. No sé qué idioma están, pero... Creo que es generado en inglés, ¿eh? Pero bueno. Music crescendos. Qué buenardo estuvo Legión, tío. No la jugué.
Hi everyone, I'm John Haidt, General Manager for Warcraft, and with me today are my friends Ian Hazacostas,
Jacitroncas, el que te jode el cofre todas las semanas.
and Holly Longdale, who leads up the production team for WoW Classic. I really appreciate you tuning in. I know we're really excited to be able to give you updates on what's happening in World of Warcraft. But first, I want to thank our community for all the feedback you've given us this year.
Y que os vais a pasar por el forro de los cojones.
You've helped shape and influence the updates that we've done recently and what you're going to see in the upcoming year.
Lo que vamos a ver el próximo
really,
año.
For Shadowlands in particular, the story of the last 9 months or so of this expansion is all about the community.
Los cojones.
Shaped by what we've been hearing from them.
Una mierda.
And us realizing as a team that
Sin
we
vergüenzas.
really needed to do a better job of making sure the community felt heard. And so that led us to the change
no.
in 9.1.5, but also really re-examining some of the assumptions and foundations of World of Warcraft about things like character investment and mains versus alts, or how catch-up should work, or the appropriate role of friction in our systems. And I think 9.1.5 represented a step in the direction of letting players have more freedom to play World of Warcraft.
Sí, ya tocaba actualizarse, un poquito.
And we really built our Eternity's End content update from the ground up around those principles.
What are some of the things that
Sí que es verdad, el upgrade último estuvo bastante bien para la gente. Falta lo del tiempo.
Things like the method and pacing of acquisition of the Covenant Legendary item, tons of tuning, and I think every step of the way, we were listening to make sure that we were carrying forward those lessons learned in the course of 9.1.5 into Eternity's End and beyond.
So, WoW Classic was really came about because of the community.
Yeah, they continue to help guide and support us as Classic evolves.
World of Warcraft has always been about the world and the players that inhabit it, and we are always curators and caretakers of that journey and of that experience.
Se están lamiendo su propia bolsa escrotal.
As the community formed and grew, we had to listen to them.
It's this tide of listening to
No hacen nunca ni puto caso, o sea, todo lo que están diciendo es bullshit.
And where we really saw a sea change in this idea.
De fondo está la Brad, por cierto. Va a haber Brad Classic. Fijar, hay un poste ahí atrás. Ahí atrás, a la izquierda. Que me da igual, que todo lo que estáis diciendo os lo vais a pasar por los cojones y vais a hacer lo que os dé la gana para tocar los narices. Lleváis ya 20 años haciendo lo mismo. Diciendo que, bueno, probamos esto, no salió. Perdón, y ya está, así siempre.
Thrilling victory and painful defeat.
5 hours. I made it 5 hours.
Ah, de hecho está clásico.
Yeah. And it continues, like Burning Crusade Classic. We wanted to balance the Paladin seals between Horde and Alliance.
Eso sí que es verdad, esto sí que estuvo bien. Aunque es un cambio muy pequeñito. El Pala Retri y la Ali no se podía jugar en el Classic. Y de la Horda se podía jugar algo. Y le pusieron el sello de la Horda a la Ali y viceversa. Para que se pudiera jugar. ¡Oh no! ¡Cross Fraction! Porque el juego está medio muerto.
Ian, Cross Faction. You're breaking with a 17-year tradition.
Yeah, it's something. It was not an easily made decision by any means, you know. And I think this is another one of those areas where really we try to take to heart community feedback and requests and ask ourselves as a team whether there's a way to accommodate such an earnestly held desire and still feel like we're being true to the roots of the game. You know, I think players desire to play with their friends who might prefer a different faction, or to play with the faction that they more closely identify with, even though their raid group is elsewhere.
It's really important for me. I play a lot of alts, and I love absorbing the story for each race, and having that ability to play with all of my friends across is fantastic.
Mucha paja.
At the end of the day, the battle cry is for the Horde. It's not against the Alliance. It's not death to the Alliance. It's about pride in one's faction. And I think there's a way to preserve that and even strengthen that while giving players the ability to make the same choice we've seen the greatest heroes make time and time again.
I can't wait to do this. I'm seeing a lot of my friends that I never knew had a max level character in the other faction suddenly come out of the woodwork.
And then, with these cross-faction groups, many of them are going to be diving
Mucha pereza,
into
todo esto ya se
something
sabía.
new to kind of cap off Shadowlands. A Season 4, kind of a remix.
También se sabía esto.
A bit of a greatest hits, revisiting all of our raid zones across the expansion, bringing in some familiar older favorites into the Mythic Plus rotation.
Qué guapa la estatua de
And,
Elida,
we
ahí atrás.
recognize this is kind of a closing chapter, a little bit of a send-off to Shadowlands. As everyone gets ready for what happens next, and what will come next, want to give a fun new challenge for everyone to sink their teeth into.
Really cool stuff for Modern WoW players. I'm super excited about the gear upgrades that you're going to give me and the chance to go back and play some of those awesome raids.
There's a lot to explore. Very exciting.
For our next adventure in World of Warcraft,
Ma.
we're going to go back to Azeroth.
Ah, mira, lo sabemos todos ya.
We're going to a space with high fantasy. I mean, our fans of Azeroth for a long time. This has been kind of the foundation of much of the lore of WoW. So, without further ado,
Bueno,
let's
cinemática.
watch the cinematic.
Gracias. Toda la paja del principio sobraba. Expansión de dragones en 1, en 2, en 3. Hace 10.000 años. ¿Esto es Uldum? Sí, esa es la Estrada de la que está hablando.
It cries out in pain. We must go to
Esto es Uldum, ¿no?
We entrust our ancestral home to you, the Watchers.
Qué predecible, ¿eh? Y esto es al lado de Alakir, ¿no?
Let the land slumber, hidden even from our own eyes. You will feel our return
¿O son las
in the
tierras
waking
estas?
of the land. Then you must light the beacon of Tearhold, lest the path home be lost to us forever.
Sí. Son las islas estas, ¿no? Que estaban perdidas. Y esta es la excusa por qué no la habíamos visto, ¿no? ¿Aparecerá el galacrón de las narices? Sí, los huesos no estaban ya en Icecrown. No sé quién es el que está ahí sentado. De momento sí, la cinemática está siendo un poco bullshit. Parece un guardián de estos de los titanes que se están encendiendo un beacon para que pues, se pueda volver a llegar aquí. copia de Endgame, ¿eh? Está haciendo la de Thor. Forjando el Mjolnir ese nuevo. El hacha rara esa de la peli. A ver, la cinemática está chula. Lo que pasa es que de momento es poco entretenida. Se va a romper en añicos. O solo poma a alguien. De salvar Estraza. Ah, pues la imagen que se filtró sí que era verdad, ¿eh? Se veía el Estraza de fondo con un pibe que no se sabía quién era y será este. Los aspectos, ¿no? Sí. Sí, han acertado todos los leaks.
The world is healing. But her fate is yet uncertain.
Sí.
Together, we shall be Azeroth's protectors once again.
Arco de redención de los aspectos.
The new age of dragons
Sí, esta es la imagen que se filtró.
shall begin.
Con calidad de mierda. Pero esta. Se ha liqueado hasta el nombre. Es el mismo nombre. No estaban muertos, perdieron los poderes. Y esto parece una continuación de Cataclismo, como que se cura el mundo o alguna mierda así, pero que...
Dragons.
¡Oh no,
This is so
dragones!
No one saw it coming.
No
I know.
one saw it coming. Carefully kept secret. But
No parece muy
seriously,
épico,
I mean, what did we just see there?
The awakening of the Dragon
No ha
Isles,
acertado todo.
the return of dragons, the dawn of a new age. Right, we've seen Rathian searching for his
Esto se
father's
sabía en
legacy,
BFA,
searching for the Dragon Isles.
que estaba
There's a reason
rehaciendo el
why he
vuelo
hasn't been able to
negro.
find them until now.
The beacon going off, is that summoning the dragons?
It is removing the concealment that had hidden the Dragon Isles from the world, but also beckoning the dragons back urgently in a time of need.
I assume pretty good variety of locales within the Dragon Isles. It's
Yes. The
Sí, estaba
Dragon
Isera,
Isles,
por cierto.
kind of standard for
No,
WoW
¿verdad?
expansion, consist
Había un
of
dragón verde, pero
5
no era ella,
zones,
creo. No debería
4
ser ella.
standard leveling zones, and a new starter zone that we'll get to in a second.
Can you talk a little bit about how the team found ways to thread the dragon aspects throughout the environments?
The Dragon Isles are a place that is lush and primal, bursting with elemental energy. As Azeroth herself reawakens, those primal forces are expressed throughout the environment, whether it's magma activity, volcanic activity, whether it's the icy wastes of the Azure Span.
Entonces
And each
Shadowlands
one
ha
of
sido un
those
arco de
has a
relleno.
connection to a dragonflight that we've seen before. And it's going to be an amazing place for players to arrive at and explore.
all right. You know I'm going to ask.
Yes, okay,
Can,
so...
can I be a dragon?
Raza jugable.
Well, let's start getting into some features here and what Dragonflight means for you as well as just a place. So first off, yes, we have an all-new playable race.
Nueva raza.
The Drakthir race.
Drakthir.
This
Se van-
is a
Se han
Drakthir
filtrado hasta los
race.
modelos, ¿eh? Es este
Dragons
modelo que
in
se filtró.
Warcraft have the ability to take on a
Más
human
furros,
form.
tío.
What classes can they be?
They have unique abilities as literally a dragon. That doesn't quite fit any of our existing classes. And so what we're doing is this is not just a new race, but it's also a new class.
Es una clase
Adding
también.
a new race to World of Warcraft, and not just an allied race, is something that we don't do lightly. But telling this expansion, this story, so focused around dragons, felt like the perfect time for it. So if you are a Drakthir, you will be
Evoker,
the
esto
Evoker
también se
class.
filtró también lo de
Drakthir can
Evokers.
only be evokers, evokers can only be Drakthir. And the reason why only a Drakthir could be an evoker is that an evoker is really combining the ability to call upon the magic of the different aspects with the unique physical gifts that a Drakthir has. The ability to actually take flight and do an Onyxia-style strafing deep breath over the battlefield, land on the other side, knock everyone back with a wing buffet, and then unleash your magical abilities.
Yes, please.
The
Hubiera molado un
evoker has
un
two
guerrero
specializations.
dragón.
They're a hybrid of either range DPS or healer, and they wear mail armor. We figured, you know, with the new
Tiene
hero
dos
classes
specs, ¿no? Han
classes
dicho.
batted over the years, we have enough melee. We don't need more of those, and also probably
Qué hijo de
don't need
puta.
any more leather wearers.
The raid leaders are going to love you for that.
Exactly. This is definitely a hero class, and so that means
Como
that
los
like
Decas.
the Death Knights before them or Demon Hunters, they will be starting level 58, and then they're going to have a new starter zone. So they're going to have a slightly different journey into the Dragon Isles as opposed to the rest of us that are sailing there from other parts of Azeroth.
Can you talk a little bit about the customizations? Like what is going to be able to identify my Drakthir character?
basically anything and everything. You know, skin color, hair color, jewelry,
Ay,
tattoos,
no,
other
Scalis, más
adornments, you can make
furros,
this
basta ya.
character the expression of
Son como
your
elfos, ¿no?
identity
En
in
la
that
forma
way.
humana.
New zone, new class,
Yep.
new race. Well, tell us about some of the system updates or features.
Of course, the new expansion brings with it
Sí, es un
new
reskin de los
systems,
Guardians,
new
eh.
features. I think in recent expansions, one of the things we've tended to do is really have these deep features that were closely tied to a specific expansion that would then get left behind as we moved on.
Sí, el poder prestado, que todo el mundo se hasta la
Loud
polla.
and clear from players that, you know, it's kind of a bummer to start off every new expansion by leaving a large part of your character behind, by leaving a large part of your progression behind. So this time around, what we're doing is really pouring all of our energy into permanent revamps, overhauls, and improvements to World of Warcraft's core systems. Things like our progression systems, in this case, our talent system, is something that we want to completely revamp. We want to take a look at our UI.
Lo de los talentos es verdad
We want to
también,
take a look at
parece.
professions.
So with the
las
talent
profesiones
revamp
también.
and the arrival of Classic, did you learn anything about how our talents work?
I think seeing a new generation of players play with those talents and work through those talent trees really underscored some of the things that, frankly, we lost when we shifted to the Mists of Pandaria style talents.
Va a volver los
and
talentos
beyond.
viejos.
A big piece of that was some of just the granularity, the feeling of getting a level and spending a point to customize your character to make yourself a bit better in some specific way. But also, you know, that sense of hybridity that you could have. That's something that we've
No, el
lost.
sistema estaba bien en algunas cosas, pero era muy malo. Sí, las he filtrado esta imagen también. Se ha filtrado todo. Esta imagen se filtró entera. Es work in progress, a lo mejor ni llega a la expansión. Ha pasado 1000 veces.
Customize their talents for a particular encounter or for dungeons versus PvP, and we don't want to lose any of that.
So John, UI?
Oh my God.
Las maestrías de LoL se basaron en esto,
I got this 30-inch monitor trying to keep track of where I am on the map.
El WoW
all
es,
my buffs in,
es
over
anterior.
here, what's going on in chat.
Al LoL.
It has literally made my eyes go like this. So
You're not alone in that. We've made a lot of incremental changes and additions over the years, but really this is a revamp. This is an overhaul. And so we're excited to really modernize the look and feel while staying true to the origins of World of Warcraft. Now, at the same time, we're not looking to take away the sort of power user customization there. Add-ons are still there if you want them, but we want a much better default out-of-the-box
Ah, vaya,
experience.
vais a modernizaros un poquito, ya tocaba, ¿no?
reduce elements, remove elements. If I want to expose
Van a cambiar la
them,
UI
see the beauty
por
of
defecto.
Azeroth.
When it comes to specific elements, as much as possible, we want to let players choose what to show and what to hide.
Más da, todo el mundo va a usar el
They
Elbow.
can control it themselves.
You mentioned professions. I have a critical question about this.
Sí, que son basura ahora.
Can I wear a chef's hat?
Es
I
una
knew
barbaridad.
Our approach to professions in Dragonflight is really all about delivering on fantasy and identity as a crafter. And so if you want to be a serious blacksmith,
Ah, qué
you
chulo.
want to be a great leather worker, we want to deliver the ability to invest time and energy into that, become a master crafter, be able to make items that are in demand, interact with the community. One of the
Sí,
big
que se va a
pieces
llenar
that
todo
we
de
wanna
chinos
do
igual,
to
no
support
engañes
that
a
is a
nadie.
new work order system to have a bit more convenience than just spamming trade chat all day. But if you are
Va a ser
someone who's
level,
not
ese he visto
yourself a
level.
blacksmith, but you have a bunch of mats and you want them forged into a great sword, you can put that work order up, list your mats, offer a commission, and a skilled blacksmith can come along and make you the weapon of your dreams.
I think we left out one thing though.
Vamos, que puedes poner
Be a
compras en
drag
la
tier, go to Dragon Isles. Can I have a dragon?
What's the fantasy of dragons if not
Puede ser un
soaring
dragón
over
encima de un
the
dragón ahora.
lands? And so we're really excited
Hola.
to introduce a feature that we're calling Dragon
Sí, una
Riding.
cosa rara.
It's dynamic with
Se podrá volar desde el
everything from
principio.
momentum to dive bombs, the ability to, you know, just sort of build that speed up and feel the world rushing past you in a way that should be much more exciting than traditional
será un
flight that
vehículo.
we've made available in the past, but that's also available for players through a customizable dragon mount right from the start.
So this is a skill you learn over time, right, to become an awesome dragon rider?
Yes, you'll be able to sort of upgrade aspects of your flight, but you will have this new form of flight from the start.
Ah, se va a volar desde el
And the
principio.
Dragon Companion that you have
Vais a dejar de dar por el
is,
culo.
of course, very thoroughly customizable, which is a new thing for us for mounts. This is not just
Parecía un
a generic
protodraco eso.
dragon that everyone has, but a drake that
Ah,
is
vale, no.
yours. You know, what do you want its scales to look like, horns, the shape of
Puedes
its head, other attachments, armor
modernizarte
pieces,
tu
and
montura.
more. Take your pick.
This is so cool.
So yeah, so the Dragonflight expansion is going to see players leveling to 70, going to the all-new continent of the Dragon Isles.
Ojalá no
which
tener que
consists of
levear.
5 zones, 4 standard leveling zones, and a new starter zone for our Drakthir class, as well as a range of systems revamps, such as a new talent system, an overhaul and update to our UI, and an entirely fresh look at professions, with more depth than ever before. Also getting around the Dragon Isles is going to come in the form of dragon riding, which lets you customize and upgrade your own mount so that you can fly in a sense from the start. And of course, as with any new expansion, we have a new set of dungeons, a raid, and much more to come.
We also have an alpha that will be starting up in the future.
Check out our website.
¿Vais a dar fecha o va a ser para el año que viene?
For those opt-in signups, if you want to help
No, si no dan fecha, sale el año que viene.
And give us even more feedback to make it better.
We do have a deep dive that follows this, so please stay around. Classic players, we haven't forgotten about you.
Laura
You
Classic.
can probably guess
Sí.
where we're going to go next.
No jodas, nadie se lo
One of
espera.
the all-time favorite expansions for World of Warcraft.
Esta sí que
Let's
van a dar
watch
fecha,
the
seguro.
cinematic.
¿La habrán cambiado o habrán dejado la anterior? Buah, tío. Super Fells. Ataque de nostalgia. Joxaro.
My son,
Reforjándose la
the day you
Frostmourne.
were born, the very forests of Lordaeron whispered the name.
Sí, siempre te hace los chills,
Arthas.
La musiquita, todas las veces. Esta es la última expansión seria que jugué.
When my days have come to an end,
La jugué entera.
you shall be king.
Classic Adventure. Este año. Se sabía que iba a salir este año. Tío, ¿no dais ni la fecha de la Brad Classic? Sois unos conos.
It's just incredible, isn't it? Every time I see the cinematic, I get chills. No pun intended, I get chills. As you saw, Wrath of the Lich King Classic is coming this year. It brings back so many memories. When you see that cinematic, what do you remember from Wrath of the Lich King?
Anytime
el deck
you
está
talk
roto.
about undead frozen dragons, how can you not go back to Sindragosa as the source? That was the first expansion I played with my youngest son. So I can remember on that platform, black goo and chunks of ice falling off and having to repeat that battle with the Lich King. But when we finally downed him, it was such an incredible moment. He jumped up out of his room and I jumped up out of my office. We're like, yeah, did it. So it's a very lasting tale for me.
So as you know, with this expansion, you will, in pre-patch, be able to play the Death Knight. They will start at level 55. You don't have to have a high-level character to make a Death Knight, so everyone will be able to make one.
We're excited to give players some time before Wrath officially launches to get geared up and ready.
Esto no lo hicieron así la primera vez.
Everybody else.
And there are
La primera vez te
so
tocaba
many zones
empezar
and
por
areas
detrás con
to
el deck.
explore in Northrend, and I want us to talk about some of our favorites. So for me, Grizzly Hills has a very special place in my heart. The music
Zona de
is some of the
mierda, que no se
best I've
engañe.
experienced in World of Warcraft.
I still make my way all the way up to Storm Peaks to try and
La única que vale la pena es
find
Icecrown.
Protodrake and have yet to get it.
I've got to say Dragonblight.
La de los
The wide
Virkuls
open
también está
nature
bien, la de
zone,
hielo.
Wormrest Temple in the center of it. It's an unforgettable expansion as both a developer and a player, and kind of making that transition from one to the other.
Now let's talk about some changes. So one thing we looked at is Dungeon Finder, and it feels like how we envision Classic, Dungeon Finder is not a good fit for our community.
¿En
That
serio?
was kind of the first step that may have
Lamentable.
eroded some of that social fabric. Now, as people have gone through the experience of going back to vanilla, rebuilding those groups, relying on each other, not wanting necessarily a random participant just to show up and then leave.
Pero tío.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Es
But
lamentable.
today, you can do that in Shadowlands. You'll be able to do that in Dragonflight. It's a self-selected group of people who specifically
Esto es una
want
tontería.
that different experience.
Yes.
Let's make sure that's what we continue to give them.
That leads right into arena teams.
Sí, pero el
So
Looking for
Classic-
Rise sí que lo
so
pondréis
we
en el
listen
cata.
to the community and we remove that because individual rating is preferable and a better experience for them than arena teams. Also, with Wrath of the Lich King, Barbershop, which allows you to customize your character. We're
increíble.
going to be adding a few more options
Buah, podrás
that
poner más
were
cosas.
not existing when Wrath launched. But also there's another side of this where we are not going to charge a real money fee. It was a paid character customization fee, right?
Yeah.
It seems the right thing to do that just be available in-game for gold, and we add more options to it, right?
It's sort of like spell batching in a sense. There's a lot of technical advancements, and it's not about the philosophy of what makes classic and what brings people together.
Sí, spamear
It's
el
just
trade
what's
con
the
busco
better
tanque.
experience, and let's not artificially restrict something that we can provide a better version of just for the sake of nostalgia. And we're happy to say this is one of those cases.
So,
Podríais meter las M pluses para los que les apetezca jugar M pluses en la verdad, pero tendríais que trabajar. El boost sí que lo ponéis, va a sacar pasta.
You can't apply it to a Death Knight, but you will be able to use it otherwise.
No puedes
And
hacer
of
tu mega
course,
con eso.
we have Inscription, a whole new profession, so we're really excited about that. Yeah, and as we continue this road to Wrath, we're going to be looking to getting a lot more feedback on beta, and we'll make changes as we need to.
Such an exciting time to be playing World of Warcraft. We have the return of the Wrath of the Lich King for classic fans, and taking us somewhere new with Dragonflight. We're so excited to be able to bring these adventures to you. Don't forget, there's a deep dive on Dragonflight where you're going to get a lot more information. Thank you so much for spending this time with us, and we'll see you in Azeroth.
And we'll see you in Northrend.
And in the Dragon Isles.
Van a enseñar más cosas ahora de Dragonflight, parece. ¿Van a decir algo de la historia?
Welcome to the Dragonflight Deep Dive. I'm Steve Denuser.
And I'm Taryn Gregory. Starting it off here, we're going to talk about the setting and the story of Dragonflight.
We've got this great expansion, exciting pre-render trailer that everyone just watched. So let's talk about the setting for Dragonflight, the Dragon Isles.
Dragon Isles have been known for a long time in Warcraft history as a mysterious place where the dragons came from long ago, but we never knew much more than that.
We're going to this place that is
Quiero ver si está el pre-order, por cierto, de
of all the
Dragonflight, y ver la
Dragonflights,
fecha.
the place where they nested, where they built their civilization. The Dragon Isles was the center of the Dragon's kingdom when the world was young and the mortal races were just starting to form kingdoms of their own.
Es que
But
el pre-order te da una pista de cuando va a salir.
For that War of the Ancients, that sundering that resulted from the explosion of the Well of Eternity, broke the world.
Literal sundering of the continents of Azeroth.
And because of the breaking of the world, that magic kind of drained away.
Ahí lo puede mirar si está el pre-order en la
So they had to
tienda de
leave the Dragon Isles behind. And as we saw in the pre-render, they left behind some Titan Watchers to look over the land, and when someday they hoped that elemental energy would resurge once again and draw the dragons home and reestablish their kingdom.
And that's when the message goes out to the flights and they feel it in their bones.
Now it's the time for the sky to light up with the colors of the aspects once again, and for Alex Straza and the others to come home. But the land has changed a lot in all these thousands of years they've been away, and some very old threats have awakened as well.
We're looking into the culture of dragons as
Sí, pero este sale el año que viene.
Dragons, as we know them today, were very different in the early past, the early history of Azeroth. They were much more primitive, much more savage. What we now know as proto-dragons.
And then some of the dragons were empowered to become the aspects. The green flight, red flight, blue flight, bronze flight, black flight, each with unique powers, each with the ability to protect the world in different ways. These pillars of draconic power
Me recuerda mucho a Pandaria esta expansión,
Azeroth from threats within and without.
No sale un villano loco en la presentación.
Both for good in the case of most of the aspects,
Llegas a una
but also
tierra
for
que no
nefarious
conocías y ya
reasons
está.
in the case of the black dragonflight led by Neltharion, who would become Deathwing.
And what we will find in Dragonflight is that some of these ancient divisions run deep. And so it begs the question, where do we go from here? If this is an opportunity to reclaim their legacy, to be the protectors, as the cinematic mentioned, that they once were.
To do that, they're going to need the help of our heroes, our players, to come to the Dragon Isles with them and face some of these reawakening challenges, because it's not just that this land is peacefully waiting for the dragons to return and reclaim it. There's those old enemies that have awakened as well.
Yeah.
One of those being a race of kind of elemental half-giants, the Jaredin.
The Dragon Isles isn't just populated by dragons or
medio genios, medio gigantes, ha dicho que son.
Many other occupants here in the Dragon Isles have been here either just recently or for a while, including a fan favorite coming back.
Los Tuskar son la polla, tío. Había una facción en la Braz que te daba una caña de pescar.
Find out about a civilization of centaurs that predates the ones that arose on Kalimdor much later.
Guau, hay protodracos,
Favorite characters
Está muy
that we've
chulo
seen
ese
over
tipo
the
de
last few
montura.
expansions, such as Rathian.
And whether he's ready to step up
Y Reacción
into
aparecerá en
a
esta
leadership
expansión, seguro.
role, or if there are other alternatives out there that would be better suited.
Se supone que
to the
estaba
job
rehaciendo
of
el
being the aspect
vuelo
of the
negro
Black
este.
Dragonflight.
Que no estuvieran
I
locos.
think one thing the players are going to be really excited about this expansion is the new playable race, the Dragon.
A mí me llama poco, el dragón este de
This
mierda.
is something that
Porque no hay melee.
before he was
Hay healer y
before
ranger.
he went full crazy
Parece que el
world
ranger es
dragon
mago.
that he put into motion.
Neltharion saw those primalists that were kind of breaking away from the aspects and what they wanted. And so, in those first experiments, he took the essence of dragons, their strength, their nobility, their wisdom, and he combined it with that scrappiness, that adaptability that the mortal races had. And he wanted to use that to create the ideal soldier in his mind, the Drakthir. Exploration is really one
No,
of the
Anduin
key
está en
themes of
Shadowlands,
this expansion.
Anduin no va a salir en
going
esta
to this
expansión.
ancient place that the dragons
Y Sylvanas
left behind
tampoco.
long ago. So we've made these huge zones with all kinds of places to
Shadowlands ha sido una expansión de relleno, ¿eh? No tiene nada que ver esto.
Secrets tucked away.
Ni se arrastra nada, parece.
Players to be exploring these landscapes.
And there's so much architectural history and how clearly aspirational was the kingdom of the dragons and how it lost so much. And the themes of trying to return to that, to try to find your legacy, to try to figure out who you were before everything went awry. But there's questions, thematic questions of what does it mean to be true to your legacy? Are we going to repeat the mistakes of the past?
The dragons have had to learn those lessons just like the mortal kingdoms have had to. And I think that's one of the reasons why the dragons see this now as the time that they have to return and they have to step up once again as protectors.
Yo pensaba que era para quitar la espada de mierda esa que está clavada.
The dragons have helped us in the past too. So by using the Explorers League and the Reliquary together, that allows us to delve into some of that history.
And when I look upon
Seguro que salen los
Dragon
exploradores estos de
Isles
mierda
and
de esta
all of its
expansión.
visual splendor, I get so
El Indiana
excited
Jones ese y
for the
compañía.
prospect
En
of
alguna
truly
zona.
Azerothian adventure alongside Calicos, along
Wow,
with
el modelo de
Rathian,
Calicos es nuevo, ¿eh?
With
Está bastante chulo.
Marithra, as each one
Estaba muy
of them
viejo
trying
ya, ¿eh?
to find their
El
own
modelo
flight.
era de la Brat.
I am taken
No, de
by
la
the
Burning.
exploration and the potential for adventure and just new horizons within this world.
There's going to be
Eso era
old
Vuelo Negro,
stories
creo.
from that time past, that history that only the dragons knew for the longest time. We're going to be able to explore that.
It really feels like just a breath of fresh air.
So now we're going to turn things over to some of our colleagues who will take you on that deep dive into the locations and the features of Dragonflight.
Bueno, van a enseñarnos cosas que podremos hacer en el juego.
Hello, I'm Stephanie.
I'm Josh.
I'm Jackie.
And I'm Gary.
And we're part of the teams that are building the first two zones that you'll encounter in the Dragon Isles, the Waking Shore and the Unaran Plains.
La
The
verde me
very
gusta.
first zone in Dragonflight you're going to come to is the Waking Shores. It's wild, untamed land. It's waking up around you too, and the elements are just going crazy.
The art team again has hit it out of the park.
You'll see like a lava mountain flowing in through the beach, giant proto-dragons swooping down, gobbling up members of your expedition.
We have such rife opportunities to show elementals rising up because of the crazy magic that's flying around.
The one of the things I love is just how you get to the Dragon Isles, right? So you're gonna get on your boat in Stormwind or Orgrimmar, and the first thing you do is sail between like the dragon ruin architectures.
Va a ser barco,
The
han
boats
dicho.
come right alongside each other. You can jump from one boat to the other and just start causing havoc on the other faction's boat.
For those who love PvP, this is a great opportunity for war mode.
It's free for all out there. It's gonna be great. But
Batalla
it's
naval.
okay. There's an innkeeper on the beach, so that if you're in that situation and you don't want to be in war mode anymore, you can just hop out right there.
The Reliquary and the Explorers League are working together.
Sí,
The
Explorers League,
Horde
lo
and
que decía
Alliance
yo.
are sending an expedition together. It's not the military, it's not the soldiers. This is the scientists, the settlers exploring this new land. So it's a lot more optimistic tone.
One of my favorite things about the Waking Shores is the Red Dragonflight, led by Queen Alexstrasza, the Lifebinder. They have the mandate of nurturing and protecting all life, which means Horde and Alliance, Gorloks, trolls, everybody. So they take that duty seriously. When the Horde and the Alliance come to the Waking Shores, they want to be there to help guide the people through the new land and welcome them. But they're not the only one in the Waking Shores.
We have the ancestral home of the Black Dragonflight there too, which has fallen on tough times since Deathwing's descent. And so Rathian's coming over to the Isles with us, And he's going to try and come to terms with the state of the Dragonflight, which is a few loyal Draconids and Dragon Spawn trying to hold their ground. What can the future of the Dragonflight be if it's just Rathian? Because it's not just the dragons that are coming back to the Dragon Isles, but also their longtime rival, the Jarden.
I love the Jarden so
Sí,
much.
nunca he oído hablar de ellos, pero vale.
That wield the power of magma, and when the Waking Shores and the Dragon Isles went to slumber, they also slumbered. They're back now, and they are ready to raise chaos.
Yeah, they're massive. They're riding giant lava mammoths, parading around, just stomping on your face.
And they were the enemies of the Dragonfly for so long. They fought against the Red Dragonfly, hunted dragons down, and they're really taking this opportunity to rise up. As the Red Dragonfly have the mandate of nurturing life, they don't want to just stomp out the Jarden completely, but they want to make sure that they don't have the power to affect those around them negatively, to make sure they don't go on a rampage and destroy the ecosystem that has been created here.
And so those are awesome things in the Waking Shore, but Steph, there really is only one right answer for the best thing in Waking Shores, right?
What?
This is true. Ducks.
Ah,
Finally have
sí, lo de los patos en la pizarra era de verdad.
in our game. We cracked the technology. We got them
Figure
in.
it out. They
Yep.
can fly.
You should be proud.
Tenemos patos,
It's
tenemos
gonna be
pato montura.
The Onaran Plains come right after the Waking Shores. It's so breathtaking at first glance.
The Onaran plains are big, wide open plains. And the player is going to be constricted a little bit, and then you see this big contrast of a zone. We don't always get that opportunity, that cinematic moment where the player can have a framed view when they see this area.
Come out and you got that postcard shot
love
of the
that.
plains. And then you see this giant
Preorden montura,
proto-dragon breathing fire.
pato gigante.
A herd of centaur like harpoon down the
Yeah.
proto-dragon, crash into the ground. And the first thing you get to do is go help them kill the proto-dragon. Like, how cool is that?
Who is Onara?
Onara is the wild god of the wind. And she's appeared before as like this big spirit eagle. She's the one who guided the centaur to the Dragon Isles many, many years ago. She
Yo
blessed
pensaba que
them,
era
took
Viana,
their
pero me
caravan
he confundido.
across and then showed them the plains.
Have fun at the beginning of this expansion was exploring
Vale, pero toda la cosa mola un huevo,
centaur.
The centaur are these mighty, awesome hunters that back when they first came to the Dragon Isles, they fought the green dragons all day long. Eventually they realized that we're strong, you're strong, maybe we should stop decimating each other's people.
Me esperaba un factor nostalgia,
We'll make
metido por
peace,
algún
we'll make an
lado para
agreement,
pillarte,
you
aparte
guys
del
hang out in the
brazo.
groves and the centaur will hang out in the plains. But now the dragons have been gone for 10,000 years. And the centaur have come so far since then. And they've been here and they've been existing and developing their culture. They all came over as one clan led by the mighty Maruk and Tira, and they founded a new life here. So if you want to get across, you have to follow their rules.
Me preocupa que esta
and traditions.
expansión
You
no
have to
tenga
earn
mucho
their
interés.
trust. You are the first outsiders to come in generations.
Porque es el
upon
mismo
generations.
pretexto que Pandaria,
The centaur
y
might
no tuvo tanto
rule
interés.
the open plains, but the green dragons make their home in the groves.
En vez de dragones,
Those
pandas, pues a
groves
ver.
are absolutely gorgeous.
And how great a job it is that we have where I can take all of this beautiful artwork and build these beautiful fantasy groves, high fantasy. We want to do lots of things with an open plain and we want to be creative with that. But we're restraining ourselves by letting the zone sing, letting the horizon tell the story. We certainly couldn't have done that in the vanilla WoW.
No, definitely not. The zones are so big and you can see so far, especially in Onaran Plains. So we talked to the engineers and we actually increased that distance.
¡Buah, increíble! Podemos ver más
Exposing you to
lejos
want to
después de 20
adventure
años.
and look through the zone and explore everything.
The interesting thing for me is we have
Gracias,
all these
cacitroncas.
conflicts with the dragonflights. There's missing dragons, there's battles, there's so much crazy stuff happening, but that's not really all we're doing. There's so much extra fun activities for people to do. And the greatest thing is that you need to figure out exactly what's going on and help solve all the problems that are just sprouting up everywhere.
We're just really excited to tell a story that's grounded in Azeroth and exploration. There's so much more to talk about. But now we're going to have some folks talking about the next two zones that players are going to experience in the Dragon Isles.
Eso que decía que me preocupa que no engancha al player, que solo, de momento el gancho que tienen son dragones y
Hello
punto.
everyone, my name is Kate.
Es,
I'm
mira,
Kristen.
esto es un
I'm Kate.
dragón.
I'm Sean.
Y ya está.
We're going to talk today about Thaldraszus and the Azure Span. So Azure Span is going to be the third zone that players adventure through, and it's one of our biggest zones that we've done in the Dragonflight, maybe even to date.
We knew it was going to be like
Necesitas
the
algo
largest
más. A ver,
visual
Cata y Eva de
elevation
Dragones
change,
también,
and it
Álvaro.
really started with this great concept art.
Salió regular.
First, we're taking a look at the design.
Dame raid para 10 personas, tío. Dime que puedo raidar de 10. Y voy de cabeza.
I really wanted to take that, but wowify it more. And I don't know if you've ever been up to the Bay Area, but in the morning, that coastal fog comes in and dips down into the redwoods and that sun shines through. That's really what we wanted to encapsulate with this forest. And not only we have redwoods, but we've got all different types of trees. Eventually, it'll break open into this wide open tundra that's just golden and red, and you'll reach up to another level of elevation where you get to see the snow. The majority of the zone is covered in snow and ice. We have giant frozen waterfalls, ice rivers as far as the eye can see.
Los Kaluak,
Sean, I
tío.
know
Me gusta
in the
esa zona.
forest, we can expect our first.
Pero que haya facción de
We
Kaluaks.
have a small group that lives there called the Gnolls. These gnolls are all throughout the forest and Azure Span. They've made this their home. Some gnolls with strange magic that we're going to find out what exactly that's about. Snow gnolls. Or as
Mira,
I call
han
them,
cambiado
the
los,
souls.
los modelos de los gnolls después de 20 años. Ya tocaba, ¿eh?
So then we go into the big open tundra.
Los viejos de
where
Under Classic.
we meet our second group,
Ay, cómo
the
molan
Tuskar.
estos. Todos me encantaron
Really
en
neat to
el.
explore their culture a lot.
en la
And those
Aurak.
kids are adorable. I absolutely love the Tuskar. Honestly, all my downtime is probably just me hanging out with the Tuskar.
So it's been a little while.
Los
since
han
we've seen
actualizado
them.
también.
Remember the Tuskar from Wrath of the Lich King.
Sí, desde
They're
la
also
Brando bien
getting a
salido.
nice, cool upres for their models, along with expanding their culture. So there are going to be male Tuskar, female Tuskar, Tuskar kids. So we're going to fight alongside them. Which
Buah,
includes
raza
help
aliada, los
from
Tuskars, por favor.
certain
Me hacen
dragons,
falta.
The blue dragons. We're going to follow the story of Caligos.
Mira Calego, Maduro Calego
our
sí que
blue
mola.
dragon buddy from the Kirin Tor, and he's going to be adventuring into Sindragos' archives.
Tío, ¿no era un
It's a
humano,
giant zone
Calegos? Porque
with
es como un
a lot of
elfo ahora.
surprises. When we're done there, we head over to Thaldraszus.
Thaldraszus.
A que parecía un
really
elfo.
Incredible because you will be going through some of the previous zones and seeing a lot of ruins for the dragon buildings. But when you get to Thaldraszus, everything is perfectly intact. It's beautiful. It's pristine.
Pero
It
de ser un
is
humano,
the seat
tío.
of power for all 5 dragon flights and home of the dragons. It feels that way with the huge vertical mountains.
tenemos Dalaran al
We've
final,
got
¿eh?
these great cave systems where you may end up finding little
Vamos en
dragon
barco.
hordes.
My favorite dragonflight right now is the Bronze. They've got a really cool area in Thaldraszus, and their magic is time. There's so many cool story hooks that we could dig into there. There's so many cool gameplay options. And we have
Sí,
a little bit of
potencial que
adventure
mandaréis a
for players.
fregar otra
It'd
vez.
be a lot of fun.
I can't wait.
We really wanted it to feel like their old stomping grounds. One of the really cool features is going to be the main city and player hub for this expansion,
Valdrakken.
Valdrakken. It is a culmination
Por
of
favor, que no sea
all
como
of the
Oribos, que no esté
dragon's
distanciada,
efforts
por
to
favor.
put together what a city would look like. So we ended up having a bunch of really fun small vignettes where you see that the blue dragonflight is hosting a public library, and the red and green dragonflights both have their own separate gardens. We'll also have
tenemos Covenant de
some
los
convenient
dragones.
services for players, including an auction house in the city.
Se me hace raro, que no ponga sistema de mierda de dragones.
The thing that really sold me on Thaldraszus was the initial concept art we got of Tierhold.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. And this is a 10,000-year-old Titan technological marvel. Tierhold has these awesome aqueducts that actually come out from the structure all the way to the city across the valley. And in the cinematic, there's just this
Se puede volar en la
amazing
puta
shot
ciudad
where
principal,
you see
gracias.
Alexstrasza swoop under one of them, and there's splashes of water cresting across her wings. So when players are flying around themselves, they get to have their Alexstrasza moment. What an incredible place and filled with so much history.
Tierhold was built by Tyr. He was a Titan Keeper back in the day who helped the Aspects fight Galacron.
Ah, mira, ahí sale el nombre.
When they settled on the Dragon Isles, he built this facility.
Va, venga, decid
And
dónde
even
está,
though
que han
Tyr's
desaparecido
gone, the
los
dragons
huesos.
have held him in reverence. But that was 10,000 years ago, and they've let the Titans maintain the place. An incredible amount of history has happened since then. Flights have been nearly wiped out. There have been invasions, betrayals. Aspects have died. And these are the kind of things that leave marks on a society. So now they're all back here, and they're all here together.
As we were designing the zone and the city itself, we're trying to figure out, how do we tell those stories at the same time as making sure that this is a really convenient place for players to go and, go shopping, as they tend to do. So much adventuring happening on the Dragon Isles.
It's so cool.
As a player, you probably don't have your own dragon wings. You are going to learn the art of dragon riding.
It's so vertical.
Volar
and
haciendo
I'm just
giros.
excited to like dive off the tops of towers and swoop under things.
It's actually one of the things that we're about to learn about next.
Dratti, Evoker y Dragon
I'm
Ride.
Jake. I'm Andy.
I'm Kali.
And I'm Graham. And I'm really excited to talk to you guys today about the Dracthyr Evoker, our
Hostia,
new race.
el que está hablando
and
parece Tom
class coming
Holland.
in Dragonflight.
We're here to talk
Si se hubiera dedicado a
about
estudiar
not
solo.
only the Evoker, but also
No
dragon
sé, me da
riding,
la
which is
la
our
cosa.
exciting expression
Seré solo yo
into
que lo veo
the
así.
exploration of the Dragon Isles.
We knew with a dragon-themed expansion, we wanted
Y el
to
de su lado está
let
súper
you
mamado,
play
por
a
cierto.
dragon. Not a big dragon, Alexstrasza size. That'd be tough to fit into raids. I'm sorry, Jake. Okay. I know.
Fine.
But a draconic humanoid. So the Dracthyr, created by Neltharion.
And like our other hero classes, you get to choose if you want to start on the Horde or Alliance side on character creation.
So let's talk a
Vale,
little
es
bit
como
about
los
the Evoker,
pandas.
the class they
Ya
can
se
be.
veía.
What's unique about it is because the Dracthyr are created by an aspect, they have the ability to wield the magic of all 5 dragonflights.
Wow,
so
¿en serio?
Evokers can take advantage of red magic and blue magic and
Usa toda la magia de todos
And
los
to show that,
aspectos.
we created a visual, what we call a prismatic effect. This
Efecto
prismatic
prismático.
effect is basically the coalescence of all their energy as they channel it into whatever spell that they're going to cast. You have a red magic spell called Pyre. So when you shoot it out of your mouth, it twirls in the air with all 5 of the Dragonflight's magic as it turns into the red spell before landing on your enemies and exploding and hopefully burning them. And
I'll take that one. Getting that vibe across that they use all 5 was really important to
Son
us,
raza y
but we
clase.
did want to make sure that each specialization
Lo
focused
que
on 2.
dijeron que solo se
Casting
puede
5 different
ser,
colors
eh,
gets a bit messy.
solo se puede ser
their
Evoker,
damage
habían
dealer
dicho, del dragón
specializations,
este de
their
las
first of
narices.
2,
Creo que sí.
Devastation, mostly focuses on red and blue magic. Red being very
Yo quería
fast
ser
and
un
explosive,
paladragón,
burning
tío.
everything with Pyre. Whereas blue is more focused and overwhelming. You can shoot a beam of energy out of your mouth to disintegrate one single enemy in front of you.
there's a healer spec called Preservation. The healer spec is going to focus mostly on your green and your bronze magic. So your green is going to be evocative of the Emerald Dream, your growth and your nurturing spells. And then you have your bronze magic, which is going to be more timey-wimey. So you get to heal a wound faster.
So in addition to the visuals and the animation, which will make you feel very powerful, we really wanted the player to have a physical connection to the cast. We have a new type of spell called Empower, where when you actually hold down the button on your keyboard, it charges up the spell. The longer you charge it up, it might do more damage or hit more targets depending on the spell, but it gives you this really physical connection and control.
De cargar el
It's new
aliento,
for World
¿no?
of Warcraft, and I think is feeling really, really good.
We have some great animations. Thank you, Andy, your team.
Love it, Andy.
You feel physical when you're casting your spells.
You can actually fly around the battlefield and cast while you're flying.
Raining fire and death from above. It's great.
In addition to the gameplay, though, another part of feeling draconic is looking like a dragon.
Well, we talk about
No me
dragons breathing
jodas.
fire, but you know what's actually fire?
What's actually
These
fire?
customizations.
Oh my goodness.
But no, they're really, really
Vaya
good.
pun de mierda.
Because you have both your draconic form and your humanoid
Sí,
form.
la-
And
es como los
the
Gorgons.
customization options for both of them are amazing.
They're very good.
What about color? Just tell me you
tell
can
us about the
change color.
Son
You can
humanos
do a lot of matching. So your Visage
o
form can have
elfos, ¿no?
scales that are the same color
Oh, Dios, qué
as
feo.
your Dracthyr form.
But my favorite, super favorite part of customization for the visage form, hair.
Yeah.
Because I can actually do this in game.
Yeah.
The tech is here.
We finally did it.
Anda,
As players
mechas.
make their way through each of the
Ya
areas
habían.
of the Dragon Isles, they'll partner up with the Dragonflights to move through the air as they've never done before. You'll notice I did not say flying because flight has a very specific meaning for World of Warcraft.
Yeah, it does.
And we're talking about something new called dragon riding.
Para volar haciendo piruetas,
the
¿no?
players are honing their dragon riding skills, they're going to get to see all new animations that go along with the different look and feel of the drakes.
We're aiming to shake up movement with this new system, providing players with a deeper immersion with forces like momentum and gravity.
We knew that for Dragonflight, we were going to have the opportunity to show players a whole new set of Dragon Isle drakes, completely unique from all the other things they've seen in World of Warcraft. And so we wanted to come up with a movement
Normalmente solo veo que hacen
that
piruetas.
would add that sense of physics, weight, and gravity, like you were mentioning. We knew it was going to take a huge team effort, not just animation, but it was going to take effects. It was going to take the engineering team, who we rely on heavily, and that combined with some new animations really helps to lend that feeling of physics as you move through the air in ways that you haven't before. And the icing on the cake is going to be some really cool effects that we've added on top of all of that. So for example, when you start hitting, maximum velocity, you're going to see contrails coming off the edges of the wings. And then as you do your rolls and spirals, you build up more and more speed. There's going to be some screen effects on the display to indicate that you're reaching
Le han puesto
maximum
marchas
velocity, which really
al
adds
vuelo,
to the overall kind of immersion and sense of reality.
Con efectos.
As players make their way through the Dragon Isles, they'll discover new cosmetic options to
Y hacha con
fine-tune
especie
their
Gile.
Dragon Isle Drake's
Esa es buena.
appearances. Things like snoots, horns, tails, elusive Dragon Isle Drake armor, and more.
Can I have spikes?
Definitely.
Okay.
We want to provide players with all new skills to play with, as those who can use their momentum well can reach higher and higher heights, and bring on new, more difficult challenges.
We just have so many new, gorgeous options to choose from, and I'm just so excited for all of them.
I'm excited for the whole thing. I mean, it's been a lot of fun to work on, but I can't wait to actually get in the game, play it with you guys.
I can't wait. I can't wait to fly around Dragon Isles. It's gonna be great.
Next up, you're going to hear about the talent revamp and the UI changes coming in Dragonflight.
Bueno, los talentos.
Hello, my name is Brian.
I'm Crash.
I'm Jay.
And I'm Laura. We are very excited to share we are finally revamping the WoW HUD UI.
And it is also time for a major revamp to talents and specializations.
I have a big question for the group. How long do you think it took for us to finally revamp the WoW HUD?
My guess is like 15 years.
Close, 18 years.
Son poco sutiles los de Blizzard.
You know, technology has
Con la
changed a
camiseta y
lot
todo,
since
por
we made the UI back in 2004. Now you have like bigger monitors, and us, we
Que a
have
mí me da
better
igual,
dev tools to work with, so it makes sense to have the revamp right now. Also, if you look at the game today, the art evolved beautifully over the years, and if you look at the HUD,
Sí, ya tocaba cambiar el HUD.
Frozen time.
So when we approached this, we wanted to create a layout experience that players could customize, move things around, adjust it to fit their needs.
Add-ons today, they do a lot for player customization.
The downside is that not everybody uses them. It's about time that everybody has the opportunity to use them, that they become a part of the base UI.
Yeah, and we are working very closely with our user research team to make sure we are hitting the goals that our player needs.
It allowed us to add new functionality, to improve accessibility in a lot of areas, and on top of that,
Y sí, colía ya vieja la UI, eso ya nos hemos
so
enterado.
the art update, it's a big part of this project. The UI that we have today has a lot of charm and personality, and players have been using that for 18 years. So with that in mind, we want to respect the players who really like the current UI, but do a modern take to it, removing the clutter and giving more visibility for your gameplay. So the new minimap, it looks bigger, and the health bar is also much bigger.
Todo el mundo va a
If you
usar
look at
el
the
Bobby, ¿qué
action
más da?
bars and the bottom menus, they have less head frames, and it can really open up your gameplay, so you don't have a lot of your UI in front of you. And of course, we want to find iconic pieces from the current HUD, but we want to bring it back in a nice way. So we for sure updating the Griffins. They
Wow.
look so nice now.
Increíble.
And the Horde, don't worry, we got you. We're gonna have your version as well. So let's talk about the edit mode.
we are putting a mode in that will let players move
Del moment inicial
various
dices.
HUD elements around on the screen.
So I'm able to move the mini-map, say, from the right corner all the way over to the left corner. If I want to bring my action bars from the bottom and kind of put them more in the center by my character, those are all things that I'll be able to do?
Absolutely. And each of those different components will have various sets of options that you'll be able to work with. They'll be able to save it, edit it, copy it, name it. Also, it'll remember which spec you're in. So if you're someone who jumps around a lot, as you switch, it will switch to whatever HUD layout you have for that spec.
This is an ongoing project. We're gonna keep working on it. So we really want to hear back from you.
A project that we're all excited
Que nos da
about,
igual
that
la
we've
Wii,
been
que la va a usar,
collaborating
que la va a usar
is
Peter.
something that's pretty UI intensive, and that's the talent system.
It
Esto
hasn't
es más
changed in a long
interesante.
time, like you said before, and we really started with how can we have players have more choice over what their character has?
As you level up, we give you a new spell or a new ability, something that kind of makes you stronger.
Pero que
but
no
it's
sea mirar una guía y ya
determined
está.
by the designers. We decide the order.
Yeah, we started looking for a system that would give players a much wider set of options.
And after looking at all those things, what we really returned back to was the idea of trees. but it's actually 2 trees. We have a class tree that offer different class utility, and then we have a spec tree that is
se usan los
focused on
dos.
performing your
Hay uno
role,
general y
whether
uno
that's damage,
específico
tank,
por la
or
spec.
healing.
Can I just jump in and say that I personally am super excited about having trees come back? There's
Muy
a big
extenso,
nostalgia hit for me.
As we said, we have these 2
Los árboles
trees
también, pero son muy
because we feel
largos,
like
¿no?
picking a specialization is a really important part of your World of Warcraft character now. And so we want to make sure that when you choose that, it kind of affects the tree in some way.
Yeah, as soon as you open your talent tree, you'll see something new. The class side will have some abilities filled out for free, just kind of starting you off in that spec you've chosen, but then you'll have your first point to spend in the class tree, which could be something related to that spec or role, or it could be something from elsewhere in the class.
There's a lot of things that we can do here, and part of that is encouraging players to perhaps make combinations that they've never really been able to see in the game before. This is an opportunity to put a lot more art and fantasy in the actual talent UI itself.
Pero por favor, haced que se pueda cambiar fácil.
Most recent expansions, but not at the base UI.
We want you to be able to tinker with it. You know, we want you to be able to make a lot of changes at a lot of times and not necessarily have to commit. The power really is coming back to the player. It's not something we want people to feel locked into, and so one of the things that we'll be preserving is the ability to change these talents at the same kind of frequency that you do now.
Yeah, the old school
Un poco sloppy, porque no va a haber poder prestado y son árboles.
Yeah, I'll go from my
bueno,
raid
oye.
night to my arena match and figure out what I think is the best for both of those.
And that's a process.
Me esperaba habilidades nuevas para las clases y
We're
demás.
building a save load feature that lets you create your build,
No veo nada
name
diferente
it,
nuevo para el
save it,
druida
and
ahí.
then load it up very quickly and freely.
Talents were really about the breadth of options. We've made all these different cool things over the years, but when are they at their coolest? It's when players can hold the building blocks of what can make up their class, their spec, and put them together in a way that works for them.
So these are really cool features that we've been working long and hard on, and we're very excited about them. And it's just an early preview of the things we've been doing. We can't wait to see the reaction that you have to them, and please reach out to us and let us know your thoughts on them. And next up, we're going to talk about professions and Dragonflight.
Esto sí que me interesa. Estaban muy hechas mierda, las profesiones no valían para nada, absolutamente para nada.
Hi, I'm Joanna.
And I'm Eric.
Podrías darle un poco de poder.
Plans for professions in Dragonflight. Professions have been a staple of World of
Algo
Warcraft
único.
forever, and they've seen lots of really cool incremental updates over their life.
Solo hay 2 personas en esta conversación, va el asunto, ¿eh?
You really want to rethink professions and figure out how to make them part of your identity as a player, if that's what you want.
We really want to make sure that professions feel fun and relevant across all levels of gameplay.
That brings us to our first update, something that we're calling crafting orders. If you want to have something
Esto es que te
crafted
puedes
for you, but
comprar
you
cosas
don't have the skill
en
or
la
the right
H
profession
directo.
to do it for yourself, you can have it crafted through a crafting order. You can basically browse any of the recipes.
Puedes comprar un crafteo
pick
para
the
que te
one
lo
you want
craften
for
ahí, ya
yourself,
está, y te
and
lo
then
den.
you include some or all of the reagents needed for the recipe.
Podrás venderlo igual,
including
supongo.
Ones that only you can get your hands on.
En plan,
You can find
como
someone in
los
person to do
encantamientos
it
que
right in
podías
front
poner
of you for
antes, ¿no?
you.
En un pergamino.
Or you can also go to an NPC and using an auction house-like interface, send the order out. If you're doing this, you can pick, do you want to send the order to anyone, sort of a public order, or do you want to only send it to your guild, or to a specific other player?
Más mecánicas para los
who
bots,
you know will be able to craft the item really well for you.
If you are really dedicated to your craft, you're going to be the best at what you do.
Esto es para que no se aburran los que suben el crafteo,
can also be
sin más.
soul-bound. In the past, you could only
Gente
get your hands
AFK,
on crafted
bots
soul-bound items by
snipeando
having that
ofertas.
profession yourself. Now anyone can
Un
have
bot
one crafted,
automático
which
crafteando
is
cosas
really
en la
neat
H todo
and
el
really
día.
expands the number of items
300.000
that we can
materiales
provide that are really
encima.
powerful because everyone can have them crafted.
Ya, pero que esto va a pasar, lo van a explotar los bots, ¿eh?
Also really
100%.
cool because it means as a crafter, you can start building your client base. People are going to come back to you to get certain items. Maybe you're the best at making it, or you always throw in a little something extra. You're also going to be leveling up your profession. It's going to be really great.
So the first time you go to craft, you're going to notice a lot of different things, but probably the biggest is the introduction of quality, both to your crafted items and your gathered reagents. Quality works in a pretty simple way. If you craft something that's a higher quality, it's just going to be better. For a piece of gear, that probably means a higher item level. If it's, for instance, a potion, that might mean a more powerful effect at a higher quality.
Vamos,
And
que,
we're doing a
que
lot
todo el
of
mundo va a querer la barra al máximo para hacer
Put a lot
cosas.
of
Fin.
work into it to make sure that the professions feel really special and unique.
And another thing you might notice in the crafting UI that's new is the introduction of stats specifically to your professions, both crafting and gathering. And this is another sort of major input
Mecánicas de los
into
gachas, sí.
quality. Probably the biggest source of your ability to craft items at a higher quality is through crafting
Especializaciones de crafteo.
We've had crafting specializations in the past, as far back as original World of Warcraft. With Dragonflight,
Sí, como
you
los
can go out
gnomos,
and earn
los goblins.
specialization points in a whole bunch of different ways. So maybe you find an old book on a bookshelf in a ruin somewhere, or a hermit in a cave who can teach you a little bit about your profession. So let's say you're a blacksmith, and you might decide that first you want to become an armor smith. And the more points you spend in armor smithing, the better you're going to get at crafting all armor.
This also means that if you specialize
No estáis
one way,
inventando la
other
rueda,
people in your guild may specialize in a completely different path. So this means that your guild could have
Le estáis
several
metiendo talentos a las
top blacksmiths, and
profesiones.
everybody's providing something
No me vendas la moto.
unique and valuable to the team, which is really cool.
Now that reminds me of another update. We're actually adding crafting tables to
Ah,
all
bueno.
the different crafting professions.
Copiando al Minecraft,
We're gonna
¿eh?
take those, and we're gonna put them all in the main city of Valdrakken, and you're gonna go in there, and you're gonna get to see all the different players crafting their items at their cool crafting tables.
Yeah, it means you're going to walk into the city and you're going to see like all these alchemists huddled over here, and you're
A
going
ver,
to see
están
all these
mejor las
blacksmiths over by the
profesiones
forge.
con todo lo que
There'll
están
be
diciendo.
other
Es que
players
ahora eran
filling orders or
irrelevantes.
grabbing orders. It's going to be a whole new crafting area that's going to make you feel really part of the world.
It just seems like a much more lively area than it has in the past.
What I'm most excited about, though, is the gear. We're introducing new types of gear for every profession, and when you go to, say, mine a node, you're actually going to just switch into that gear. It's going to be really great.
You're not going to have to carry that stuff around in your backpack anymore. There's actually going to be dedicated slots for each of your pieces of gear. But I'm a numbers guy. I love progressing. All pieces of profession gear will have those special stats that we mentioned before on them.
Ojalá
And
un
as you
tier
get
de
hands
minero.
on better versions of the gear, it's really going to help you get better at your profession.
I can't wait.
Espero que no me hayáis descuidado la pesca. No han dicho nada de la pesca. Fijo que no ni la han tocado.
Content and changes coming
Estoy
in Dragonflight,
segurísimo.
and we've got a lot more in store for you in the coming months.
Until then, we'll see you in Azeroth.
Les ha dado paja seguro. Ya está. Pua. Copiando el Black Desert. Sí, eso parece. Hay cosas que están bastante guay. La cosa es que sigue siendo una expansión de... Toma, dragones. Y ya está. Sin más. Toma, 5 nuevas zonas. Le voy hasta el 70. Toma, dragones. Ciudad principal. Una nueva temporada de M+, una raid. Y bueno, a ver la historia, que en general no parece... No han usado ningún gancho de historia. En la anterior usaron unas silvanas. En esto no han usado a nadie. Así que ni zorra. ¿Para cuando quitamos la bota mensual? No han dicho nada, así que... Ni idea. En fin, ya son las 7. Me puedo echar un Valorant si queréis para practicar un ratito. Y es que no me apetece darle mucha vuelta a lo que han dicho tampoco. Y me voy a sacar al perro. Eso es lo que puedo hacer si queréis. ¿Sabes lo que he dicho? Son dragones. En fin. Está bien. Hay cosas que están guay. Pero parece un poquito a lo Pandaria. El Pandaria era un poco el pretexto de pandas. Zonas sobre pandas. Nueva clase. Más o menos igual. Pandaria estuvo bien como expansión. Pero... No sé. Al menos al principio a mí se me hizo un poquito coñazo. Pero faltaba un gancho. Para interesarme más en la historia, por ejemplo. Y aquí el gancho supongo que son los aspectos y los dragones. Y los aspectos vienen de una expansión que salió Flockhucha también, Cataclismo. Podrían haber dicho algo de las raids y tal, que no parece que vayan a cambiar el sistema. Así que no sé. Pero bueno, iremos viendo.